Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Now we are entering the 34th lecture of this course. In this course, we intend to cover, in this lecture, we intend to cover the non-comparative scaling techniques. In the previous lecture number 33, we had discussed the comparative scaling techniques. So, now it is turn of the non-comparative scaling techniques to be discussed. So, what are those? The non-comparative scales are those scales in which each object is scaled independent of others. There we were comparing between the two types of toothpaste preferences, which one would preference. In the brand of milk also we were giving the respondent was given to show his preferences. In the brand of butter or in the cycle, the in all the examples the respondents were given to compare the various stimuli, to compare the various objects, and this is why they were called comparative scaling techniques, whereas in non-comparative techniques we do not compare directly the stimuli objects. In the comparative scales, there was direct comparison of the stimuli objects, but here in non-comparative scales, it is not that. Each stimuli or each object is scaled independently of the other stimuli of the other object. So, for example, the respondents are asked, if the respondents are asked to give a preference score on a 1 to 6 scale to brand A of the toothpaste. Here 1 is not preferred at all and 6 is the highly preferred. Minimum and maximum 1 to 6 points. So, similar scores can be obtained for brand B, brand C, stimulus B, stimulus C. Because of the numeric data and wide applications, non-comparative scales are widely used in research. Now we shall be, or we should be very clear in our concepts of comparative scaling techniques and non-comparative scaling techniques. In non-comparative scaling technique, there is no direct comparison of the various stimuli or the objects. What is done here? That a scale is presented to the respondent. Say, we can make a scale 1 to 6, 1 to 5, 1 to 7, 1 to 9, depending upon our own research demand, how the problem demands. So, the respondents are given this scale, say suppose 1 to 6, to brand A of the toothpaste. So, here 1 is the least score and 6 is the highest score. 6 means highly preferred and 1 means not preferred at all. And similar scores are obtained for other stimuli. As we have tried or as in non-comparative scales, an effort has been done to get a numeric data of the preference level for any stimuli or any brand. And because of the numeric data, the non-comparative scales have wide applications in research. So it is now clear that in this non-comparative scale, not a comparison is made directly of the stimuli objects, but the scale is provided to the respondents and they have to give their response. The respondents have to give their response or their preference level for the stimuli or the object. The scale could be 1 to 5, 1 to 7, 1 to 9 depending upon the research problem. So here the scale is 1 to 6, 1 is the not preferred at all and 6 is the highly preferred, and in between you have 2, 3, 4, 5 and everything is given to the respondent, and then he gives his opinion and ranks his choice on a separate non-comparative scale, that is separately for each of the stimuli. So we are discussing the non-comparative scaling techniques and some of these are mentioned below, that is continuous rating or the graphic rating, itemized rating, single multiple category scale and the verbal frequency scale. These 4 types of the non-comparative scaling techniques we have to discuss in this lecture. The first is the continuous rating or the graphic rating. The graphic rating scale is quite simple. It is commonly used in practice. Under it, the various points are usually put along the line to form a continuum, and rater or the respondent indicates his rating by simply making a mark at the appropriate point on a line that runs from one extreme to another. Scale points with brief descriptions may be indicated along the line, their function being to assist the rater in performing his job. The following is an example of 5-point graphic rating scale when we wish to ascertain people's liking or disliking any product. So these are the 5-point graphic scale which we have given to a respondent for, say, for a brand of product, brand of milk, brand of butter. We have begun from the highest rather, like very much, like somewhat, neutral or indifferent, dislike somewhat, dislike very much. So what we find that the scale is a continuous process. It is continuum. It begins from the maximum, then comes to the next, then comes to the middle, and then again declines to the next, and then coming down to the lowest. So from one end to another, we find that there is continuous rating, and this is why it is called the continuous rating or the graphic rating. This scale is presented or given to the respondent, and what he has to do is to just put his mark on the point which suits his opinion. So, if the respondent thinks he dislikes this stimuli or the object very much, he would put his sign over there. And if the respondent thinks of the commodity or the object or the stimuli as disliking somewhat, he would put his sign over there. And if he is neutral, he does not like or dislike, then his mark would be there. And similarly, his mark at if he likes somewhat, and if he likes it very much, he would be giving his mark over there. And that way, this graphing rating scale is achieved. The scale is very easy for the respondent because he does not have to go into the intricacies of comparison of one object to other, or one object to many other objects, or one stimuli to other, or one stimuli to many other stimuli. So, it is very comfortable, it is very convenient for the respondent, and it is expected that the responses should be maximum in with the working with this continuous rating or the graphic rating, because it is very convenient for the respondents. Then comes the itemized rating. What is that? A scale having numbers or brief descriptions of each category is provided. Categories are ordered in terms of scale positions. The respondent select one of the categories that he the best describes the stimulus object. Commonly used itemized ratings scales are: number 1, Likert scale, semantic differential scale, and the Stapel scale. We have these one by one. We shall be discussing each of these scales, which are called the itemized scales. So, the first is the Likert scale. So, in Likert or summated scale, scales are developed by utilizing the item analysis approach, wherein a particular item is evaluated on the basis of how well it discriminates between those persons whose total score is high and those whose score is low. Those items or statements that best meet his sort of discrimination test are included in the final instrument. The summated scales consist of a number of statements which express either favorable or unfavorable attitude toward the given object or stimuli to which the respondent is asked to react. So, here we observe that we have been given a scale here where they give strongly agree, undecided, disagree, strongly disagree, and various numbers have been given to these stimuli. These are the Likert scale. Likert scale is very popular scale, and here in this lecture, where we have to compare all the non-comparative scaling techniques, where we have to cover all the non-comparative scaling techniques, it is not possible to discuss Likert scale in detail. This is why we may be discussing this Likert scale separately in one of the lectures. So, for now we should have this, that Likert scale or cemented scales are those scales which consist of number of statements which express either a favorable or unfavorable attitude towards the given object or towards the stimuli to which the respondent is asked to react. And here we have given this one, beginning from the strongly agree, then undecided, then disagree, and then strongly disagree, giving them different, in fact, scores, and depending upon those scores the Likert scale works. We will restrict ourselves for the Likert scale up to this only. Next is the semantic differential scale. The semantic differential scale or the SD scale, developed by Charles C. Osgood, G. J. Suki, and P. H. Tannenbaum, was an attempt to measure the psychological meanings of an object to an individual. This scale is based on the presumption that an object can have different dimensions of connotative meanings which can be located in multidimensional property space, or what can be called the semantic space in context of the semantic differential scale. The scaling consists of a set of bipolar rating scales, usually of 7 points, by which one or more respondents rate one or more concepts on each scale item. Here is the table of the semantic differential scale. Here the following stimuli have been given from one end to the another. It is a 5-point scale. If the stimuli is successful, then the maximum score is 3 and minimum is -3 when it becomes unsuccessful. Similarly, the stimuli is severe. If it is 3, it means really severe, and if it is the severity goes down to the leniency. Then there is heavy and light, hot and cold, progressive and regressive, strong and weak, active and passive, fast and slow, true and false, sociable and unsociable. So, in these all we can develop a semantic differential scale by providing the scores beginning from +3 to -3. So, if it is really very hot, then 3 is given. If it is hot, then 2 is given. If it is neither hot nor cold, then 0 is given. If it is cold, then we give a -1. If it is a bit more cold, then it is -2, and -3 is when it is really very cold. So, that way the stimuli, all these stimuli are given the points. So, the procedure, what are the procedures? So, various steps in developing the semantic differential scale are as follows. Number 1, first of all, the concepts to be studied are selected. The concepts are usually chosen by personal judgment, keeping in view the nature of the problem. As we have selected here the concepts: successful, unsuccessful, severe, lenient, heavy, light, hot, cold, progressive, regressive, strong, weak, active, passive, fast, slow, true, false, sociable, unsociable. These are the concepts which we have selected. These concepts are usually chosen by the personal judgment, keeping in view the nature of the problem that a researcher is working upon. So now we have selected the concepts. The next step is to select the scales, bearing in mind criterion for factor composition and criterion of a scale's relevance to the concept being judged. It is common practice to use at least 3 scales for each factor, with the help of which an average factor score has to be worked out. In the previously we had in the previous we have 7 scale. So it says that there should be at least 3 scale for each factor. In the table it is given is 7 scale. So one has to decide whether what large scale one can manage. So normally 3 to 7 is very good scale. So 3 or 5, 7 is best. So we can choose between 3 to any, but the choice should be limited, because then the data would become very difficult to handle. So one more criteria should be kept in view, that a scale should be stable across the subjects and concepts. Otherwise, the scale would not be proper. It would become an improper scale. Then a panel of judges are used to rate the various stimuli or objects on the various selected scales, and the responses of all judges would then be combined to determine the composite scaling. To conclude, the semantic differential scale has a number of specific advantages. It is an efficient and easy way to secure attitudes from a large sample. These attitudes may be measured in both direction and intensity. The total set of responses provides a comprehensive picture of the meaning of an object, as well as a measure of the subject doing the rating. It is a standardized technique that is easily repeated, but escapes many of the problems of response distortion found with more direct methods. So this is the semantic differential scale which we have studied, and then we quickly cover the next, the Stapel scale. What is the Stapel scale? The Stapel scale is in the name of John Stapel, who developed this scale. This is a unipolar rating scale with usually 10 categories numbered from -5 to +5. This scale does not have 0 or the neutral point. Respondents rate how each term describes the object by selecting the appropriate number. Positive number means the term describes the object accurately, while negative means that the term describes the object inaccurately. +5 means the highest degree of accuracy, while -5 means the highest degree of inaccuracy. So in a Stapel case, we consider this example, that we consider the phrase number 1 tasty food, number 2 fast service, number 3 good ambience for a restaurant. A respondent is asked to rate how accurately these terms or phrases describe a specified restaurant. So for tasty food he has given plus this, he has given +1. For fast service, the respondent has given -2, and for the ambience, good ambience, the respondent has given plus 3. So, the scale begins from plus 5, that is the most accurate, highest degree of accuracy, while the minus 5 gives the lowest. So, in the tasty food has plus 1 score, fast service has minus 2 score, and good ambience have been given plus 3 by a respondent. And from this we can always arrive at some conclusion about the rating of the restaurant. So, the respondent selects plus 1 for tasty food, minus 2 for fast service, and plus 3 for good ambience. This means that the respondent thinks that the phrase tasty food is accurate with a minimum degree of accuracy. Phrase fast service is somewhat inaccurate, while good ambience is sufficiently accurate. So, according to the respondent, the ambience of the restaurant is good, food taste is okay, but service is slow. That is the conclusion from this scale, which is called the Stapel scale. So, this method is applicable when the responses are rated on a single dimension. The method is very economic and the data can be collected over telephonic interview also. Some researchers think that the method is confusing and of not much use. But of course, every method has its own benefits, its own advantages, and its own limitations. And with that, the Stapel scale also works. Then next is the single multiple category scales. These scales are also known as dichotomous scales. Dichotomous scales mean that in this scale we have two or more mutually exclusive responses. Mutually exclusive means totally separate. So, for example, yes and no, true and false. The respondent has to choose only one out of the given categories. It would be clear from the following example questions. Do you play cricket? Yes, no. What is your marital status? Unmarried, divorcee, married, widower? It could be either of them. What is your employment type? Salaried, self-employed, professional, retired, self-employed business, student, homemaker? It's very clear. One can respond to any of these. What do you own? Car, house, computer, home theater system. What are you interested in? Music, sports, traveling, films, reading. What do you like to do on internet? Social networking, news reading, gaming, email, knowledge gaining. So, it should be ensured that the provided choices exhaust almost all possible answers to the asked question. The choice others may be given along with other choices. The collected data is a nominal scale. The method is easy and very popular for the internet surveys. So, this was about the single multiple category scales, in which the respondents are given a scale for the multiple choice or for the dichotomous, that is the scale is either dichotomous or maybe multiple also, and then those responses which have been given to him, they are mutually exclusive. so that one answer, the respondent is not confused between the two kind of responses. So this is how the single multiple category scales work. Then we have the verbal frequency scale. This scale is used This scale is used when the respondent is unable or unwilling to give the exact numbers in the answer. For example, how often do you eat out? He is not able to give once a month, once a week. So we have given him the escape route of, in fact, if he cannot give answer in exact numbers, he can give like this. If we ask him, how often do you eat? Then he says, frequently. He has given the scale frequently, sometimes, rarely, never. So these are the scales on which one can always respond, give his or her response to the question of eating out. So this question, there could be another questions also, like asking the people. So any question which is asked in which people are not able to give, or they are unwilling to give the exact numbers in the answers, then also one can ask them. One can ask a student, how often you go to a cinema house for picture seeing. Then he can, of course, if he is unable to say in exact numbers, then he can say, I go. He can use this scale, that is verbal frequency scale, frequently, sometimes, rarely, never. That is the way we can ask the respondent when he is unwilling to give the exact numbers. So this this scaling technique has some qualities or something which we have to discuss, that is dimensions. In unidimensional scale, only one attribute of the object is measured, while a multidimensional scale considers that an object is described with several dimensions. In this last, we have given the the unidimensional scale. So one attribute of the object is measured, while in multidimensional scale we can develop the scale into the several dimensions. Number of scale categories, larger number of scale categories will provide better precision in the collected data. However, it would become inconvenient for the respondent. If we give large scale categories, then of course the precision would increase. The precision of the collected data has to increase. However, for the respondent, it would become more and more inconvenient, and we have to keep it for the respondent a more convenient scaling, so that he is willing to give responses. If we make the scale tough and inconvenient, then the respondent may not feel feel cozy, and he may not cooperate with the researcher. Then is the balanced and unbalanced scales. In balanced scale, the number of favorable and unfavorable categories are equal, while they are unequal in an unbalanced scale. So, in making a scales, we have to be very particular that the scale is balanced. because if we give the we do not have an unbalanced a balanced scale, then it may not give the true picture of the phenomena. So unbalanced scale have to be avoided. Unbalanced scale avoiding means we have to give proper representation, equal representation to the positive aspects of the stimuli and the negative aspects of the stimuli, to the positive scores of the stimuli and to the negative scores of the stimuli. If we give it if we keep the scale balanced, then it would serve our purpose. And if we do not do that, our data collection may become biased. And when the data collection becomes biased, then the result also may not truly reflect the true qualities of the phenomenon, true characteristics of the phenomenon. And this is why one should keep balanced scales. So this way we have discussed the non-comparative scaling techniques, in which we discussed the continuous rating and graphic scales. We discussed the itemized rating scales. We discussed the Likert scales. We discussed the semantic differential scale. We discussed the Stapel scale. We discussed the single multiple category scales, and we discussed the verbal frequency scale, and in this mostly covers the non-comparative scaling techniques. So I wish that I have been able to make clear what is non-comparative scaling techniques, and the various non-comparative scaling techniques that we have discussed is clear to you. Thank you very much.